All right, let's try again to get analysis on the IMF's global economic growth projections. We speak now to Antswisa, the Chief Executive Officer, Miyelani Mkhabela. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So your thoughts on this projection for global growth, but also for emerging market and developing economies. They're generally set to experience more stable growth throughout the next year, but it seems to be a different picture for South Africa. The projection is much lower, and as I was trying to ask you earlier on, is the power supply crisis the main problem?
I think what I can indicate, which the report as well stipulate it's moderating inflation that is global, and at the same time in South Africa we are seeing that. And then when we look on the other side, is steady growth that is opening a path for a soft landing. And then when you look at that, you will find that certain markets, which it could be resilience that is peaked in the United States market, and then some of the emerging markets are as well having that a steady growth that is opening a path for a soft landing or for a pillow landing, as others are putting it. But when you look on South Africa, same as us, we are gonna be experiencing a soft landing. It's just that the growth in the South African market is expected to be a bit lower, as probably anyone can expect. In terms of IMF, they are looking at 1% for 2024 and as well 1.3% for 2025. In the same way, you look at a growth that has a bit dropped for China, which is 4.6 for 2024 and 4.1 for 2025. And then when you look on the United States, you look at 2.1 for 2024, and then you look at 1.7 for 2025, while France is 1.0 and then 1.7 for 2025. And then Sub-Saharan Africa is 3.8 for 2024 and then 4.1 for 2025. And when you look at the balance of that, you can see that Sub-Saharan Africa is doing well. China partly is doing well, though it went down a bit, but there is resilience in the United States. So when you look at the consolidation of Sub-Saharan Africa, China, and the United States, that strengthens the global economy to have that growth or steady growth that is anticipated to give an open path to a soft landing.
I mean, just looking at what the IMF is saying, that there is a need in terms of structural change. That's been an ongoing discussion and a great source of frustration for observers who said South Africa is not taking the right action and speedily enough. Just in terms of the underlying productivity growth, besides the logistical bottlenecks, you mentioned the inflation outlook, core inflation is set to look better globally. But what can we do to jack up productivity while also effecting that badly needed structural reform?
I think locally, one of the things that has been affecting the South African economy is food production. If South Africa can get food production positively, locally, where that needs a Department of Agriculture and a Department of GTI to do agriculture and agro-processing respectively. If such can be done well, the economy as well can perform far better, because South Africa is not doing well in the core of the industry that each and every economy is expected to do well. So we have neglected agriculture and agro-processing, and that has catch up on us since 2020. And it is affecting as well South Africa in terms of prices. But the second part that South Africa will as well need to look at is on the production of electricity. So like when you look on electricity generation, South Africa is facing huge challenges there, and that is affecting respectively manufacturing and the mining sector. That makes mining and manufacturing to be affected in production, because when electricity costs are higher, the cost of production in manufacturing will have to be higher. And that has been quantified by different numbers since around 1978 when we look at electricity and manufacturing. At the same time, when you look at mining, when electricity prices are higher, mining costs are higher as well. And that affects the cost of production in mining.
Before we run out of time,
look at those three sectors, we will do well.
Before we run out of time, I need to ask this question because President Cyril Ramaphosa was suggesting earlier on that there may be efforts at regime change because of the action South Africa has taken at the ICJ. So there's, on the one hand, trade distortions, but there's also geo-economic fragmentation. Is this something that we would have to contend with, particularly also given the fact that we are going into an election year?
I would say internationally or globally, we are experiencing FDI fragmentations, and that when you look on the investment that the United States were putting, if you compare South Africa and Egypt, you will see that Egypt has quadrupled. And when you look on South Africa, South African FDI investment remain the way it is. And in the same way, when you look on other BRICS economies, you will find that China's FDI investment for 2023 went down with around 80%, which it is similar in the BRICS economies. How you look at the United States and European Union investment. And I think such FDI fragmentation is the core that is affecting South Africa, China, and other BRICS economies.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to us, Chief Economist at Antswisa, Miyelani Mkhabela.